Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcasting to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, UNESCO's executive board ratifies draft resolution on Jerusalem which fails to acknowledge a biblical connection to the Temple Mount. The Russian and Syrian air forces halt all airstrikes on Aleppo 2 days ahead of a planned ceasefire. According to Western-backed armed forces closing in on the Islamic State-controlled city of Mosul, some 20 villages on the outskirts of the Iraqi city were secured during the first hours of the operation. The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO has once again reached a consensus to pass a resolution on Jerusalem's Temple Mount, angering Israel's ambassador to the organization who said the Jewish state would not take part in this ugly game. The site is revered by Jews and Muslims alike, known to Jews as the Temple Mount, where both biblical temples once stood, and to Muslims as Haram el-Sharif, where the Al-Aqsa Mosque stands today. A draft, however, of the latest version of the resolution, which was submitted by 7 Muslim countries, including Algeria, Egypt, Lebanon, Morocco, Oman, Qatar, and Sudan, repeatedly described the site only by its Muslim names, denying its biblical history.
We will not negotiate and we won't take a part in this ugly game. This game, there is no place for those games here in UNESCO. This noble organization was established to preserve the history, not to rewrite it. And the Palestinians and the Arab countries want to rewrite the history of Jerusalem. And we don't need any approval, not from the Palestinians, with all due respect, and even not from the executive board. The history link between the Jewish people and Jerusalem is so strong that nobody on earth can break it.
Even though only Muslims are allowed to worship at the site, contradicting basic international law, freedom of worship, as well as contradicting the peace treaty between Jordan and Israel, which clearly instructs both countries to preserve the freedom of worship for all monotheistic religions in the agreement's Article 9, subsection 3, the resolution vehemently condemns Israel for restricting Muslim access to the site and for aggression by its security forces. The resolution was voted through on Thursday of last week with 24 votes in favor, 6 against, and 26 abstentions, with 2 countries absent. The Palestinian ambassador to UNESCO stressed following the vote that the resolution was about ownership and sovereignty on the sites of East Jerusalem, which he said were occupied by the State of Israel, a perceived reality which was adopted by UNESCO's executive board.
What we are talking about is the ownership and the sovereignty on the site, which is East Jerusalem. We are recalling Israel that they are the occupying power there, and as an occupying power, they have obligations to respect, and they have more than obligations even, they are tied by the international law.
Mexico, under pressure from Western states, decided to back away from its initial intention to call for a new vote on the resolution in order to withdraw its support, allowing the executive board to ratify the draft resolution with 24 in favor and 6 against. Now to the ongoing conflict in Israel's northern neighbor. The Russian and Syrian air forces halted all airstrikes on the Syrian city of Aleppo 2 days ahead of a planned ceasefire designed to allow both civilians and rebels to leave the besieged city. The move comes after a promise was made by Moscow to halt airstrikes on Thursday for 8 hours. Speaking at the United Nations headquarters in New York, Russia's UN ambassador Vitaly Churkin urged countries to influence moderate opposition forces to separate from al-Qaeda-linked groups, including the Nusra Front, and leave the eastern part of the besieged city.
We believe that under these circumstances it's extremely important for member states with influence on the armed opposition groups in eastern Aleppo and beyond to intensify efforts to separate expeditiously all moderate opposition forces from terrorist entities designated by the Security Council. We believe also that it is extremely important under these circumstances for all parties to prevent material and financial support from reaching individuals, groups, undertakings and entities associated with terrorist groups designated by the Security Council, and we strongly insist that any party stop fighting in collaboration with them, separate from them, and formally subscribe to the cessation of hostilities.
Russia has permitted moderate rebels to leave the city with their weapons via 2 special corridors unhindered, while warning that if they decided to stay in the city and fight alongside the Nusra Front, an al-Qaeda-linked group that is considered to be one of the most powerful rebel forces in Syria's conflict, and has joined forces with Western-backed groups to battle President Bashar Assad's forces, renaming themselves Jabhat Fatah al-Sham, Churkin warned they will face some unpleasant consequences.
Either they move out of the city or they separate from Nusra and recommit themselves to cessation of hostilities regime. But something needs to be done about Nusra. Well, first of all, the moderates need to be separated from them, and then Nusra has to leave the city, or it will be confronted by some unpleasant consequences.
According to Russia, military experts would meet in Geneva to start working on separating terrorist entities from Syria's moderate opposition. More on Syria, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said that no options could be taken off the table regarding Syria ahead of scheduled talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Merkel said she and French President François Hollande would discuss Syria with Putin after they meet Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko in Berlin to discuss the implementation of the Minsk peace plan to end the conflict in eastern Ukraine. The German Chancellor said the priority in Syria was to somehow reduce the people's suffering in the country. Nevertheless, the German leader stopped short of voicing any hope of reaching an understanding with Moscow.
Es ist selbstverständlich, dass wir angesichts eines solchen Treffens dann auch der französische Präsident und ich die Chance nutzen werden, mit dem russischen Präsidenten über die Situation in Syrien zu sprechen. Ich habe das bereits ausführlich in Hangzhou auf dem G20-Gipfel getan, der französische Präsident auch. Die Situation ist noch desaströser geworden, was die humanitäre Lage anbelangt, und das ganz klar durch syrische und russische Luftangriffe auch auf hilflose Menschen, Krankenhäuser, Ärzte. Und natürlich werden wir das thematisieren. Ich bin der Meinung, man kann jetzt angesichts dieser Situation keine Option, auch nicht die der Sanktionen, vom Tisch nehmen. Aber der Vorrang hat jetzt erst einmal, dass wir gucken müssen, das Leid der Menschen in irgendeiner Weise zu lindern. Und das wird morgen Thema sein. Auch da wird man sich keine Wunder erwarten können. Aber Sprechen ist immer wieder notwendig, auch wenn die Meinungen sehr stark auseinanderliegen.
Now, with regard to the offensive of the Iraqi city of Mosul, according to armed forces closing in on the Islamic State-controlled city, some 20 villages on the outskirts of Mosul were secured during the first hours of the operation. With air support from a US-led coalition, government and Kurdish forces edged closer to the city. As part of the operation, more than 5,000 US soldiers are reportedly deployed in support missions, as are troops from France, Britain, Canada, and other Western nations. The Iraqi army is attacking Mosul on the southern and southeastern fronts, while the Kurdish Peshmerga carries out their operation to the east of the city.
كان يوم أمس حقيقة يوم تقدم كبير لقطاعاتنا بكافة المحاور. المحور الشمالي الشرقي لقوات البيشمركة البطلة، حيث استطاعت من تحرير بحدود 9 قرى في سهل نينوى وتكبير لعدد خسائر كبيرة بالأرواح والمعدات. أيضا المحور الجنوبي الشرقي لأبطال الفرقة المدرعة التاسعة، تحرير وتطهير العديد من القرى ووصولا إلى مشارف قضاء الحمدانية، وأصبح تحت مرمى نيران أسلحة قطاعاتنا المباشرة وغير المباشرة. كذلك المحور الجنوبي لقطاعات قيادة عمليات تحرير نينوى المتمثلة بالفرقة 15 من الجيش العراقي، تحرير قرية الحود واللزاقة.
Despite fears of a mass exodus of people from the city, reports indicate no residents have fled as of yet. Around 1.5 million people still live in Mosul, and the international organizations for migration said the Islamic State may use tens of thousands of the residents as human shields to hold onto their last stronghold in Iraq. Thank you for watching us. Praying for the peace of Israel and the peace of Jerusalem. I'm Jonathan Hassan. Have an Erev Tov, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.
In order to donate to TV7 Israel News, please follow these simple steps. First, press the Donate logo, located at the bottom left side of TV7 Israel News Facebook page, or on the Donate tab at the head of the page. Then insert the amount you'd like to donate, and fill in your credit card information. Just like this. And press Review Donation and continue. After reviewing your donation details, please press Donate to finalize your donation. That's it! Your donation is now complete, and an email with your donation details has been sent to your email address. You can also print your donation receipt by pressing the link here. Thank you for supporting TV7 Israel News.